I'm MarzGurl.
And I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 62 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 11 of City Hunter, titled Mokkori Killer, The Princess's Noble Aura, Part 2.
Let's start fixing things that were really wrong and really bad in Part 1.
Because as you guys remember, last week on this podcast, things were going really well and it was kind of a funny episode, and then it came to a screeching halt because of rampant transphobia.
That was fun, in a not really sort of way.
Yeah, that was fun in an awful, let's not do this anymore way.
It sort of starts this week almost that bad, and then it improves, and it doesn't get a 100% fix, but it does get just sort of an apology for its behavior. It's one of those internet type apologies where it's like, I did a bad thing, and you caught me, and I feel bad that you caught me. Can we just pretend this didn't happen? Like, influencer apology is what happens here tonight.
That's horrible. And the thing about it is, there's room for improvement, but at least there's a strong enough base for us to build off, we think.
We have to look for some silver lining somewhere.
I think we got a little bit, just a little bit.
Okay,
We have that much, like, the tiniest inch of silver lining, and that's as good as we can get, and damn it, we're gonna use it.
Okay, let's go for it.
So to recap in this two-parter, last week on MokkoriPlay, we have a new princess from a Fakeland called Jenna. We went over this.
Jenna, at least that's what the manga says.
And we're going with that. A princess and her handmaiden have shown up in Tokyo, and they're looking for a bodyguard to take them around the city. That bodyguard is Ryo, and he has agreed to that because there's a hot handmaiden.
But she's not really the handmaiden, she's actually the princess, and everybody's lying about it just to protect her, mostly to protect her from Ryo, because everybody around the entire world knows that Ryo is a pervert.
And Ryo's been trying to mac on her the entire time she's been here, but he can't do it because she gives off an aura that inhibits his Mokkori powers.
Which is when we finally get to the point where Ryo is complaining about not being able to touch her, and then everybody for some reason decides to tell him, well, that's because she's a trans woman, and you're not attracted to trans people, Ryo. And he's like, yeah, I guess that must be true. But none of that is true. She's not a trans woman. She's very sad that she has learned that people have lied that she's a trans woman and that Ryo suddenly doesn't want to hang out with her. It's very sad and disgusting, and that's where we're at. The princess has run off because she is heartbroken and she's extremely embarrassed. Meanwhile, Ryo is off sulking to himself
in his bedroom
about, oh, she was so hot, but it turned out she was trans, so I guess I'm just gonna be here alone by myself. This is where we start, by the way. This episode is with Ryo by himself, just being alone, sulking, and having what I called kind of a Finkel and Einhorn moment.
For those of you that have seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, a movie that upon rewatch has not aged well at all.
Oh no, it's extremely transphobic. There's a lot of gay panic in that movie, and that's why I say, if you have seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, specifically the first one, there's a moment happening right here at the beginning of this episode that gives off vibes that are like he's having Ace Ventura's Finkel and Einhorn moment.
Yeah, and it's horrible. And so Coyote comes into the room to like knock some sense into him, like, hey, we need you to get back out there and get her back. She's run off. But Ryo's not hearing that. Right now he's like, oh no, she can take care of herself. She's a nice strong man. She can handle it. She can be out there on the street. And now Coyote, who was the beacon of self-awareness last week, finally decides to tell him the truth about this. And she just screams in his face, you idiot, it was all a lie. We told you that to leave her alone.
We told her that so you would leave her alone.
That's what I meant. We told you that about her so that you would not touch her.
And Ryo, of course, is very upset about this as well. Like, why would you do that? Why would you lie to me? Oh my god. Wait a minute. Does this mean she actually liked me?
Because you wouldn't tell me something that messed up or make me think something like that. I mean, granted, I thought it first, but you really reinforced it. That means she has to like me.
And he's very upset about that because it means that he was prevented from hanging out with somebody who mutually enjoyed his presence. And I would be upset about that too. But also he should be upset that he acted like a jackass about a potentially trans person.
Exactly.
This episode doesn't talk about that part, about why that part would have been bad. That really upsets me that never comes up. He never has to address that bad behavior.
Like, he simplifies it down to y'all just being haters, and they kind of are.
It's true.
But at the same time, Rio, we know who you are.
We need you to take a look at yourself and why it is you're so afraid of trans people.
Think about the consequences of your actions and keep it in your pants, Saiba. So now that we've gotten that straightened out, Rio immediately decides, okay, fine, everything's back to normal. I'll go look for her right now, and then runs his ass right out the window.
He's just not even thinking clearly at all. He just thinks, oh, the quickest exit to this building is the window, and he runs straight through it, glass and all.
Like,
and the frame, like the wooden frame, like not just the outside of the frame, but up and down and left and right. Like the horizontal and vertical
The whole window
frame.
pane just completely gives way under the force of his renewed Mokkori power, and he falls like Wile E. Coyote style. I know we say that a lot, but it very much is Wile E. Coyote style.
Just screaming, falling to the ground, splatting into the pavement, and Kaori realizes, oh yeah, I need to go and work on this too. I'm part of this.
I should not just send the horny man to do this work. Now, thankfully, the princess, who we all know is the princess, except Rio still doesn't yet, the princess is just out on a street corner under a street lamp as though she was posing for an album cover.
Yeah, it's very 80s pop photograph looking.
Like, you think this is the cover of a Night Tempo album, is what I'm thinking. And so she's out there, like, really embarrassed about everything that's gone on, thinking, oh, if I see Rio again, I won't be able to face him. And at that moment, as she's saying this out loud, Rio's, like, right there, like, of course you can face me. I'm right here. And so now, Rio does kind of the right thing and proceeds to start apologizing for everything.
Which is good. That's a good place to start. And he gets on his hands and knees, too. Just really emphasizing, I screwed up bad. I really embarrassed you. I'm sure your shame must be so big that this should be so little for me to do. It's nothing for me to do the most basic bare-ass apology such as this. I made you feel bad, and I'm sorry. So that's great. That is great groundwork.
And he's also like, I'm sorry I put you in this position, which is half right. He just needed to say a little bit more. Like, that's as much as the episode's gonna give us.
Right.
But if only he could add a couple more words on there.
Yeah, I sort of wish what would follow up after that would have been, I should have never treated you that way, even if I did think you were trans in the first place.
Right. Because the whole thing about it, which is actually what is making the princess more endeared to him, is how respectful he's been this whole time.
Right.
And so if he were speaking a little bit more to that, not that he's not right now, he's got a good groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
He just needed to go a little bit further is what I'm saying.
Right, I agree with that. So if this, we were talking about this earlier today, if this were done today, and maybe it shouldn't even be done today, but if
we would just avoid making this mistake altogether, but
right,
if we had to keep this scene in,
then if he could just also add in, I shouldn't have even behaved that way in the first place, even if I thought you were trans.
And for all of that, I'm sorry I embarrassed you.
Yeah.
Like, that full apology would be great.
Yes.
That would be awesome. And so the princess is actually really relieved to hear all this because, yes, it is taking a lot of the emotional weight off of her because she thought this was somehow her fault in some weird way, which it's not. She's the victim here.
No, and I think actually it's more that she was just extremely embarrassed.
That it happened at all.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that. And so she decides now's the time to go ahead and put herself into his arms. And at this point we notice, and Rio notices too, there is no aura.
Yeah, the aura that he has been feeling that has been rejecting him.
His Mokkori power.
That every time he reaches out to touch her, he just feels himself being pushed away. He does not feel that right now. And it's something that I was kind of calling consent vibes, because the way Rio is describing this is like, oh, I understand.
The aura is something that she is giving off because she didn't understand what love meant or what love looks like or is.
So now she definitely feels love and attraction to Rio and definitely understands it, although she was kind of like, hey, I'm kind of into what's going on right now, but now it's full on, okay, he's apologized to me, now I'm accepting of this. This feels like I also consent to these feelings, and that's why I'm like, was it consent vibes and non-consent vibes?
Well,
and for some reason, we see that animated looking like this green, glowing, hovering aura, and some tiny, minuscule piece inside Rio somewhere is actually a decent enough dude to realize even if I want to touch her, I can't because she hasn't given me the consent vibes yet.
Yeah, I think more more so nowadays, if you were to adapt this episode, we wouldn't call it an aura. We would definitely more say the vibes. She's giving off vibes that are not vibing with me. But now that he's apologized and shown himself to be more of a respectful person to her, of course, yeah, she would vibe with that.
Right.
And so right now, you could say they're vibing. Yes.
Might be vibing a little bit too well, because now Rio has kind of gone so far into the consent vibes that he's like, well, now I'm feeling like I could just go the whole way into Mokkori vibes, which is not really where she was going.
No, she's more in love vibes. He's going to boner vibes. And so there's a pretty noticeable, and I say noticeable with air quotes, difference between what happens right now in the manga. Because here in the anime, he starts giving off the perverted face and starts doing the perverted giggle, you know, the
Yeah, so it's great because the manga presents this extremely similarly, but of course the anime has to pull back from some of the stuff that presents itself in the manga.
So here in the anime, as he's giving off that face, the princess remembers, oh wait, they warned me about this guy. I'm gonna back away. Which is fine, just looking at his face, yeah, it makes sense for her to back away.
Similarly, in the manga where this came from initially, what has happened here while they're holding each other in the park is that actually Rio got a full-fledged boner.
And she is backing away from the boner.
She's just backing away from the boner. So it's basically the same idea. We've just kind of toned down the graphic boner poking through the pants.
Yeah, like the biggest difference was in the manga, he had wood.
Yes, exactly.
Now, meanwhile, across town, Kaori and Selena, the handmaiden who's been posing as the princess, are still out looking for the actual princess, and they haven't been able to find her. Unfortunately, they did find the two dudes who were trying to kidnap them last episode. So Selena, the handmaiden, goes ahead and questions, who are you guys? And the two dudes respond back, oh, I bet you're pretty smart. You know who we are and who sent us. And she's like, okay, I get it. One of the retainers from back in our home country is trying to murder the princess.
It seems like kind of a big jump to me to decide, oh, this is a murder plot, but I guess I'm just gonna have to assume that she knows better than I do what's going on in her own country, and that maybe this has been a thing that's been developing for a while now, that somebody has been plotting to kill the princess.
So as Kaori and Selena start running, dude fires off like 3 shots to stop them in their tracks, and they take Selena hostage and tell Kaori, alright, send a message to the princess. Warehouse 7, by herself, come alone, and then we might just let her go. Alright, bye.
Also, Kaori, you can't come with us. You stay here. You go and tell everybody that this is what's going on. Don't you dare get in this car. I'm gonna shoot at you so you don't get in this car. Alright, bye.
So now Kaori's got to deliver this message to Rio and everybody else, so she's heading back to the apartment because hopefully Rio will be there by the time she gets there. Now Rio is already back at the apartment with the princess, and he's noticing,
I've got some alone time right now.
That means I put the face back on.
That's disgusting. Just a disgusting face.
And I love the way the princess, she gets like really robotic, the way she's walking away from Rio, like, I'm going to pretend I don't notice that.
She's kind of had that same robot face, like both in the park while trying to back away, and also here right now, like, I really like him, but I just don't want him to move that fast. Like, can we just pretend we're not moving that fast?
You're at an 8, I need you at a 2.
At least a 5. Just peel it back a little bit.
And so Rio's inching closer and closer to the princess, like, you worried about me doing something? I'm not gonna do anything wrong.
How am I gonna trust you with that face, man? And thankfully, Kaori busts through the door and she's got the hammer. And like, he deserved it. He had it coming.
So she put the hammer down on his head.
Very fast and very rough.
She's like, now's not the time, jackass. There's a kidnapping. So now out at the docks, because again, all this shit happens at the docks.
They always have to go to the docks or the wharf or, I don't know. It's always a warehouse.
The same warehouse that they always have Kamen Rider and Super Sentai fights. I'm sure of it.
I'm shocked they didn't run into a Yakuza group down there in the meantime.
Yakuza's next week.
I know, that's why I'm telling you there's so much Yakuza happening that I'm just shocked that these guys did not run into the Yakuza while they were there. That's what I'm telling you.
But here we're actually going to meet the head of this whole master plan about trying to kill the princess, and it's a guy by the name of Minister Malmes. And we know he's foreign because he's wearing a fez.
Also, his name is just stupid.
Like, does that sound like a Middle Eastern name? Malmes?
I mean, none of this sounds like it's Middle Eastern at all. Their names don't sound Middle Eastern. The country name doesn't sound Middle Eastern. It's just Fakeland with fake people. It doesn't really matter where they're from, I guess. Yes, they're from the Middle Middle East, but why don't we just pretend it's wherever you think it is?
Well, damn, I was gonna take you to Malmö for your birthday, but never mind now.
You're gonna take me to that guy?
No,
Ew.
wait, that's not the name of the country. Selagena's the country. I messed up. All right,
Ew,
never mind.
I don't want to go to that guy for my birthday, which is next week.
I know. So Malmus comes forward with his plan to Selena, like, yeah, this is what we were trying to do. We've been trying to accidentally bump her off for a while, and that wasn't going to work, so now we got to get her hands dirty. And you're a smart little girl, aren't you? You got a 250 IQ.
Which, I mean, IQ is bullshit, but yes, that is an impressively high number for like a 10-year-old or however old she is.
They never told us how old she is.
I don't know, doesn't she look like a 10-year-old to you?
She looks
I
like a
don't know.
10-year-old. 11's pushing it.
Heck, I would even go as low as 8.
I don't know that I would go 9.
Okay, like we're in the same age range, really.
Like somewhere between 9 and 12. How about
Sure.
that?
12's too old.
12, yeah, that's the upper end, like, all right, you're pushing it now.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, Malmus is pretty convinced that the princess is going to come and try to do this exchange, and Selena tells him there's no way she's gonna come. I figured you would try to do this. I warned her about it in advance, and I have given her explicit instructions that if they take me to try and get to you, just leave the country. Leave my ass and save yourself. To which he's like, nah, we all know the princess. Everybody loves her because she's so kind.
I mean, he's right, though.
Yeah, he's got her number.
Because you're gonna see this in the next, like, couple of minutes. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of person she is.
Actually, it's not the next couple of minutes, it's right now. So we're gonna go back to the apartment and see Cowdy, Rio, and the princess, who, again, Rio doesn't technically know that she's the princess yet.
He hasn't been told.
He hasn't been told, correct.
But does he know? It's that stupid, the Batman meme. Does he know? Does he know? Oh man, I want to make an image of that to tweet out for this week's podcast. A picture of Rio looking real smug and then the words, does he know?
I like that. So yeah, they're heading down to the garage here, and we've never gotten a real layout of what Rio's apartment looks like, but we know there's an elevator because we see it right here in the shot. There are 5 floors and 2 basements.
Like it goes up to floor 5, right?
Yes.
Which that's a lot of floors already. And then yes, there's a B1 and a B2.
So they're stopping on B1, which now we see is the garage.
They stopped on B1 because B1's the lower level?
No, B1 is above B2. B2 is always lower. No matter
and they
what
stopped on B1, they did not stop on B2?
No.
Okay.
So what we figured out is B1 is the garage because we see it right here. So we have to assume B2 is the shooting range and the armory.
And the armory, yeah. We knew that there was a garage. We knew he had a garage, and we knew that he at least had a motorcycle down there. We didn't see the motorcycle this time. And we didn't count the motorcycle this time when we were watching it. But remember, somewhere in there that we didn't see on camera is a motorcycle somewhere. Okay. But all 3 of them are walking and talking at the same time. We'll talk about what they're talking about in a minute. But cars. He's got a lot of cars. He's got at least like 5 cars.
So as they're walking right now, we only see to the left of them what cars are there. There could be more that we just don't see out of shot.
Where the camera is on their right-hand side. So there could be more cars behind the camera.
Exactly. So what we do see are a white van, some kind of blue SUV, a red sports car, a silver luxury car, and then the Mini.
So he's got at least 5 cars. We're not counting Cowry's Panda.
The Fiat, yeah.
And we haven't counted the motorcycle that we also know he drove out of there at one point in time in like the previous season or whatever.
So he's got like 7 vehicles. They have 7 vehicles between the 2 of them.
At least. And then he keeps getting Mini Coopers when the Mini Coopers get totaled.
But see, like, that's the thing you were bringing up when we were watching the episode. Out of all of those cars, he chooses the Mini.
He could drive the sports car. He could drive the luxury car for status symbols. And he doesn't do that. He chooses to drive a Mini Cooper.
That's nothing but emotional attachment right there.
Absolutely.
That's because this car means something to him.
He's not driving it for performance. Do you think that's performance? Because a Mini Cooper, you know, it does okay. It's an old reliable, but it's not like we need to go real fast or we need to do crazy stunts. And I know that Shinjuku Private Eyes might have you believing that, but it's not true.
No,
It's
like,
not.
and you know, he's not out here driving like the 8.6 doing donuts and stuff like that, which he's perfectly capable of doing. Dude could be a stunt driver if he so chose.
Sure.
But no, he chooses this little red car because he loves it.
And I guess he's got the other cars if he has a job that needs it.
Like if he needs the cover, you know? But even then, most episodes, like they're just sitting there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he has... Were they Mokkori's?
Oh shit, we didn't even think about that.
Oh my god, did I just headcanon that? But is it a good one though? Is it a good headcanon though?
I mean, it makes sense because Ryo only loves one car.
Yes.
And it's the Mini Cooper. It could be that Mokkimura has all those cars and Ryo never uses them because Mokkimura didn't tell him where the keys were.
Or he's just not getting rid of them because they were Mokkimura's and he's like, I'm not gonna get rid of these. And also, Kaori's here now and maybe she's like, don't get rid of my brother's cars.
Yeah, but as much as they're always hurting for rent,
you could really sell a car.
You could get rid of one of those cars. No, come on, you can get rid of half of those cars and you'd still be okay. Come on, they don't need an SUV.
No, they don't need it, but I'm just saying, emotional attachment.
But no, we're gonna do this right now. If you gotta keep one of those cars, which car are you keeping? Because I'm going no-brainer. I'm keeping the sports car. I'm keeping the red sports car.
Either the sports car or the luxury car.
You want to keep the luxury car. Okay. See,
maybe.
Then you sell off the other cars.
Yeah, I know. I would easily sell off the SUV-looking thing and the van. Easily.
I mean, I might keep the van.
Well, I guess if you're talking utility.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you need something to move in.
You need something to be able to put things in.
Something to haul things in. Yeah.
Right.
Say, I'm trying to be practical here. But see, Ryo's not being practical. He's got all these, like, do these count as depreciating assets? I don't know.
Well, they depreciate the second you drive them off the lot.
So maybe by not driving them, he's trying to hold on to their value.
I think we're thinking entirely too far into it at this point.
But that's what we do. So we say all that to say, Ryo's just here to say, oh, why didn't you guys tell me that the princess has gotten kidnapped? You should have said that sooner. The only thing I don't get is why they would want the handmaiden, the real princess, to come along, because this is the story they're feeding Ryo right now.
And he's just sort of mumbling all of this to himself while they're like, hey, just let him keep thinking that to himself. Kaori and the actual princess go and have a conversation off to themselves.
And Kaori's telling the princess, hey, look, Selena told me that this is the plan. Leave her be, let her stay with the kidnappers, and you get yourself back to the country you came from, back to Selagena, and be safe.
And Princess said, yeah, she told me that too because she thought this might happen, so even before all this happened, that was already the plan, but no. So...
Well, yeah, like, the story they fed Ryo on top of that is that, well, they need the handmaiden too because she knows about the plan and she knows too much, and so they can't keep her alive. Yeah, which is kind of half true.
It is half true. So I guess we gotta go.
Because the princess tells Kaori, look, we grew up together. I just can't leave her.
Growing up together is, well, I mean, I guess if the princess was already like 10 years old when the handmaiden was born, then she could have spent the last 10 years with her, I guess.
I mean, maybe? Like, I don't know. We don't even know how old the princess is.
No, but I'm guessing she's at around 20.
Around Kaori's age.
Yeah.
I mean, that tracks, I guess. And so the princess tells Ryo, all right, Ryo, take me to wherever they said they're holding her. Let's go. And Ryo tries to, like, put his hand on her shoulder, like, hey, are you sure you want to do that? And then, boom, the aura's back on.
Well, because now the princess is no longer in consent vibe mode, and she's like full-fledged, I've got business to take care of. Nobody fucking touch me. That's what
yes.
this is right now. And thankfully, Ryo gets the hint, and he's like, that aura's back up, and Kaori does not know what he's talking about. Probably because Kaori is not trying to bone the princess. So, of course, she wouldn't get those vibes.
So they go ahead and head out to the wharf, to the warehouse, and Ryo's like, all right, we know what they want, but we can't exactly give them what they want, so I have a plan. I stopped at Party City, and I got you this wig, Kaori. Put it on.
Don't worry, this wig will make you look like a
woman.
Ryo, please. And thankfully, we hit him with the hammer straight away.
Like,
we're not putting up with this bullshit joking again at this point. Like, we've already fixed your stupid gender comedy that you think is so funny. Kaori's over here like, Ryo, you have one joke, and then hits him with a hammer over it.
And so we see the wharf, and sure enough, damn it had to be at sunrise. Like, just, they had to find another way to get their name in there. Like, I don't know if that's on purpose or not. I really don't.
No, I don't think that's on purpose. I think that's just, it happened to be the setting. It just happened to be sunrise, and it's just a very crazy coincidence.
Is it, though?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
You can't tell me that there's not the slightest possibility that that's not a coincidence.
If I look at the manga, I could tell you. But I'm not gonna do that right now. I don't want to get up. I had it in my hands last week. I don't need to do it again this week.
Fine. So the guards come tell Malmus, hey, the princess finally showed up. And he's like, all right, send her in. And so, thankfully, at least this part makes sense. Because it's at sunrise, the sun is coming into the warehouse they're in real hard from the outside. So the quote-unquote princess is backlit. So they can't get a real good look at her.
Sure. But, princess is not really the princess. This is Kaori in a wig. And she's like, hey, it's me. Why don't you let her go now?
Let my handmaiden go, because she's not the one you want. It's me. And handmaiden's like, that's not what you sound like.
That voice is kind of weird. Oh, I know whose voice that is. Alright, I understand what's going on here. I'm gonna play along.
But unfortunately, Malmus and his two guards are like, well, you need to get the hell over here. You don't get your ass over here, we're gonna go over there. And they walk up to her.
You don't want to do that? Yes, we do. Rio, would you like to do something, please? They're gonna figure out I'm not who I say I am. And they sure do, in fact, do that.
Because once they get close enough, 5-10 feet away, it's like, you're not the princess!
And Kaori's like, nope. Runs off, loses her wig, and
runs over to Selena.
Immediately gives up. I almost wonder just how worth it was to even do this, because it failed so fast.
Well, it bought them enough time, because, she runs over to the princess, and one of Malmus's two guards pulls his gun on them. We're gonna off you anyway. Mm-hmm. And this is when Rio decides to show up. Like, hey, what's going on? Rio-chan.
Rio-chan des.
Rio-chan des. And they're like, what the hell are you doing here? We had guards. We had 14 dudes waiting outside.
Yeah, and they're all gonna get kicked to sleep.
Yeah, Rio just showed up. I love the line he told them, because we see the shot of him stepping to the guards like, oh, you guys aren't tired from being up all night? I'm gonna put you to sleep. True badass line right there.
Right.
And so, yeah, they all got kicked to sleep, because we see them all, splayed out.
It's a shame you don't see most of it. I mean, you get to see some of the action in a little bit, though.
Well, now, because Footsteps starts playing.
Yeah, so here he comes to knock out just the last couple of guys. He does a palm strike.
And it's the other guy with the chops.
He gets one guy in the nose real hard.
And so now he steps to Malmus, because now he's taking care of every guard. And now he's telling him, hey, old man, you want me to put you to sleep?
Because I could do that. But then Malmus is like, no, please don't do that. In fact, if you spare me, I will give you whatever you want. Do you want a harem? I'll give you a real big harem.
And he's like, wait, are you for real? Are you on the level? Yeah, I'll give you a whole country's worth of women. You like women? We got loads of women, all kinds of women. At which point, Kaori gets Malmus in the head with a hammer.
Which, again, very well deserved. Kaori's always there to take people out with the hammer when it's necessary.
The princess and the handmaiden are now safe.
Yay! That's great.
But we still got some time left in this episode.
And Rio has asked the princess out on a date. And the princess said yes. And everybody's like, why did you do that? And she's like, bitch, why not?
It's my life. I can do what I want.
I'm gonna go on this date with him before we have to go home. And Rio takes her on a nice drive throughout the city, like they have a good time.
Well, see, the thing is, before they leave, right, it's just been the four of them this whole episode. It's just been Kaori, Rio, Selena, and the princess, right?
Yes.
So then Reika comes busting in, like friggin' Kramer in an episode of Seinfeld, right?
Bitch, what are you doing here?
I know. And Reika's like, Kaori, check it out. I got photos. We actually know what the princess and her handmaiden look like. I got them right here. Look.
Oh, that's convenient because they're sitting on my couch right now. Oh my god, Kaori, did you know the princess is sitting on your couch right now? Yeah, I knew.
And then here comes Rio walking down the stairs with the princess like, all right, we're going now. And Reika's there trying to be like, do you know who that is? That's the
Nah, it's good. Rio, don't worry about this. We're gonna handle this on our own. You two have a great time. Because they're still trying to avoid Rio knowing that the princess is, in fact, the princess.
And so they're here just like trying to shut Reika the hell up. Like, we didn't even ask you to come up here. Just shut up and just let him get out the door. The overall success of this entire couple of days hinges on Rio not knowing. And so it's like, all right, Princess Alma, you've just been saved from a horrible ordeal. What are you going to do now? I'm going to Disneyland.
Well, they do go to a theme park. It's not Disneyland, though. It's not nearly good enough to be Disneyland.
It's probably like Yomi-Ura-Land or something.
Probably, yeah.
But they're on the teacups.
There are some teacups, yes, that's true. So, I mean, it comes pretty close.
Now, I'm thinking about this, right? It was told to us last episode that this is the only time that Princess Alma is ever going to leave her country before she ascends the throne, and then she can never leave again, right?
I mean, I think that's a pretty good time to take somebody to a theme park. You're like, oh my god, you're never going to get to do anything ever again. We better make sure you visit a theme park.
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, that's so basic.
Yeah, but still...
I mean, like, there's other things, like, go see the beautiful scenery of Japan, you know, go to the castles, go to the...
Don't you want to do some normal shit sometimes, though? I would be like, man, I wish I could have at some point in time gone to ride a roller coaster in my life. That would have been fun.
I mean, yes. You know me, I'm not going just for roller coasters, I'm going for tokusatsu stage shows. That's what I would have done.
Right.
But I'm not a princess.
But the tokusatsu stage shows are also at theme parks.
That they are.
Yeah, so shut up!
All right, fine. No, like, for real, like, if you guys have, sidebar, if you guys have ever seen the first, like, 2 minutes of the movie Perfect Blue, right?
Right.
That's exactly what happens at these theme parks. They have little stage areas set up for little Power Ranger shows, Japanese Power Ranger shows.
Super Sentai, yeah.
That's the proper term, but some people don't get that, and so you have to say
you're
Japanese
right,
Power
you're
Rangers.
Right. So Super Sentai shows happen there, and then there's musical performances sometimes.
Yeah, so, like, if they showed us more of it and it wasn't just teacups and roller coasters, if she wanted to be like, oh, here comes... Wait, it was 1987, so who was it right now? Whichever Sentai was having a stage show at that moment, that's what they're watching.
Sure.
And so she's like, real thankful it's sunset now, so they've been gone all day.
And Rio's like, I'm gonna take you someplace special, and they go and they park, and they get in an elevator, and they go up really, really high, and then they walk out onto the rooftop of some really tall building, and you can see just a huge chunk of Tokyo's skyline at night, all lit up.
Tokyo's skyline. At night.
Yeah. You can see the Nikon logo and the Mitsubishi logo.
And the Canon
logo. Which you probably could not get away with these days, but in 1987, you could get away with it.
And the thing is, they're only so much taller than the other buildings around them.
Yeah, so they didn't go to, like, the tallest building, but they went to a pretty tall one.
But I totally get the appeal, because when we were there last time in Japan, we went up to the top of the Tokyo Sky Tree.
Yes, and that is the tallest one in Tokyo. I mean, yes, it's in...
Asakusa.
Well, Asakusa is part of Tokyo.
Yeah, if you're getting real specific, it's in Asakusa, and that thing is so tall, and we went at night.
Yeah, and that did not exist at the time. But it exists now. And I have to imagine, because Ryo's talking about, sometimes I hate it here, but then I go up to the top of this building and I look out here and then I'm like, no, I actually like what I do and I like being here. So I think he's just picked a really tall building in Shinjuku specifically.
Yeah, because he's there kind of waxing poetic about, you know, I work in the underground, and down here in the underground it's dirty.
Yes.
But I get out here in the clean air and I see the city for what it is, and yeah, you know, I realize that I like it here. And it's where I want to be, and it's the place that makes me think my dreams can come true. And it's like, wow, Ryo, you're actually more thoughtful than I thought you were.
And the princess is like, no, yeah, I get it. All right, yeah, this place makes me feel that way too. I'm glad you brought me here. I get it.
Because remember, looking out over the whole of Tokyo at night, that's something to see.
It is really impressive. There's only so many cities around the world that are quite like it. And especially Tokyo in the 80s. Because Tokyo had become such a crazy, wild hub for technology, electronics, neon.
You know, it's one of the most populated cities in the world.
It is the most populated city on Earth now.
Yeah, and so the hustle and bustle and all this urban development, and you look at it at night and seeing all these lights, it's like the reverse of looking at the stars.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, there's its own kind of beauty to it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I totally get the appeal, and you know, the mood's good right now, and so the princess is telling Ryo, you know what, this kind of makes me think I can achieve my dream. And Ryo's like, oh, I didn't know you had a dream. What is your dream?
Close your eyes and I'll tell you. Well, he didn't close his eyes. But
was like, why would you want me to do that? I don't want to, you know, I'm a sweeper. I can't keep my eyes closed. Someone might shoot at me. What's going on?
Anyway, she takes that opportunity to give him a kiss. And I mean, like, she had a good good time with him during the time that they spent together, and she probably knows, well, I'm never gonna get this opportunity ever again because I gotta go back to my home country. And Ryo actually keeps his hands in his pockets.
Yeah.
And he keeps his eyes open the whole time. Like, he's partly surprised, but also partly like, this is nice, I'm just not gonna ruin this. I'm just not gonna do anything stupid. This is the one time I'm gonna actually sit here with a clear head and be like, this is going really well. I really need to not fuck this up.
And you know what? That proves, beyond all the other terrible stuff that he's capable of and does, that he is capable of decent decision making.
Sometimes.
And this, thank God, is one of those times.
Yeah.
He kept his hands to himself, he kept it in his pants, and the woman had a nice evening.
And she gave him the kiss. He didn't put the kiss on her. He didn't force that onto her. She made that decision herself. She chose that.
The consent vibes were there.
The consent vibes were there. Yeah, she didn't give off any of the negative aura that prevented him from being able to touch her. Everything was great. And only after that do we see him drive her up to the airport where Kaori and actual kid Selena and, like, what, 2 other guards.
Yeah, they're entourage.
There. They're like entourage are standing there waiting like, oh my god, Ryo, what took you so long? Like, they gotta get on this plane now, man. What are you doing?
And Ryo's like, sorry, we were a little late. You know, it's fine now. We got her here in time for the flight. And Kaori's like, what were you doing? Ryo's like, nothing.
I didn't do anything. And he didn't.
No, he's telling the truth.
He genuinely didn't.
And Kaori's just like, I don't trust you. But I mean, like, he's innocent this time.
Yeah.
This time.
Also, calm down, Kaori. You two literally aren't in a relationship at this point in time. Just
maybe you ought to examine your feelings, huh? How about that? Little Miss Makimura. And so it's time for the princess and Selena to leave, but the princess kind of gets something caught in her throat. Like, she's trying to get some words out and just can't seem to do it. And it seems like she wants to tell Ryo the truth of her own volition. And so without her saying a word, or actually getting words out, Ryo just, like, super cool guy, right? Hands still in his pockets, walks by, and he's like, you know, to me, you'll always be Selena the Handmaiden. And he just walks off.
Like, you're always going to be just a normal woman to me. Like, he knew. He knew. So the question, does he know?
Does he know?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, probably.
Who knows how long he knew it? He may have known it the whole time and he just played along.
That's entirely possible because, as we talk about so often on this show, there's so much that Ryo is aware of and knows, and his whole awareness of a situation allows him to play into that illusion that he doesn't know more than he does.
Sometimes when you think, oh, this guy's a fucking idiot, it's because he's being a fucking idiot on purpose.
He's playing the fool to gain the upper hand in a given situation.
Of course it works because sometimes he legitimately is a fucking idiot.
This is true.
Both of those things are true.
And so the princess and Selena get dressed in their traditional clothes that look like the outfits that the Chipettes wore in the Chipmunk movie. It is. Don't lie to me that it's not. Did you not think that?
Hot air balloon. Yeah, I guess.
It's totally the Chipmunks movie outfits.
Does Sunrise Air charter hot air balloons?
They could. And so Selena admits to the princess, you know, he was a good bodyguard after all that, Ryo. And the princess is just like, no, he's a lot more than that. Like, she's real choked up about it.
I've gotta leave him forever. Yeah, sorry, ma'am.
Goodbye forever.
Oh, and by the way, Ryo's not getting that harem, because actually, before their date, Ryo decided, I don't want the harem so long as I get this date with the princess. That's it. That's all he wanted.
Yeah, he changed. I don't know how he missed that. He changed the conditions of why he took the job.
Yeah, so he's not gonna go back to the country that he was never gonna go to in the first place. He was never going to leave Shinjuku.
He loves Shinjuku too much.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the plane takes off. You see it go into the air. And Kaori asks him straight up, so you knew? And so cool. He's playing it like, knew what? And it's this nice screenshot. You know, you've got the plane in the air. You've got the two of them on the Mini.
Sitting on the Mini, looking up in the sky at the air traffic. That's a really good zoom out,
It's really good. Supergirl's playing, and that's the episode.
Yeah! We fixed 80% of what was wrong with the last episode. 20% of it went unresolved, but then at least the rest of the episode was pretty good.
I don't want to miss this. You said negative aura a second, and it just reminded me. Did you ever ever see Beck Mongolian Chop Squad?
Only the first episode.
So one of the songs they sing starts off with the lyric, "You opened up the door with your negative aura."
You just really wanted to quote that lyric.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it triggered it in my head. You opened up the door with your negative aura. It just triggered that in my head. It's got nothing to do with the episode, it's just another thing with a negative aura.
But that's the thing. Last episode, Rio could not open that door because of the negative aura.
Yeah, see, that's the inverse of it. He couldn't open the door because of the negative aura. So it's the opposite of what that lyric is.
Great. I'm glad we had this conversation.
I'm glad we did too. And so, yeah, the episode fixes a lot of things, covers a lot of things. If the episode had been written more recently, maybe we could avoid the uncomfortableness altogether, or, fix certain things if you had to bring it up at all, which I think you shouldn't.
Right.
It should be respectful, and you can still have fun in that context.
Yes.
And the show shows that there is a side of Rio that can be a decent guy, that can be respectful, understand boundaries and consent.
It's buried in there, but you gotta whip out the shitty parts of him.
Well, be careful about saying whip out around saying Ryo's name, because
He'll do it.
He'll do it. It's trying to whip itself out in the manga all the time.
It doesn't quite make it, but it does make itself known that it's there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were wrong before. Next week's episode, we thought it was like 30 or so episodes down the line. No, next week is SmackDown here at MokkoriPlay. It's the women's wrestling episode.
Wrestling ladies, yeah!
Hell yeah. It's one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I know there's some mutuals of mine on Twitter that are like, oh my god, this episode of City Hunter is really good because I'm really excited to talk about Japan women's wrestling. There's a lot of people that I'm mutuals with who have a really big connection to women's wrestling out of Japan.
Because their women's division is much more well developed than most of the stuff we see out here in the States.
That's true.
Quite honestly.
A lot of stuff. Although a lot of indie wrestling is doing a pretty good job right now.
Right now, yeah, for sure.
I don't know about in the 80s so much aside from Glow.
I mean, that's its own thing in and of itself.
But yeah, I feel like that's a slightly different atmosphere.
So that's going to be a more fun one next week, and I'm happy to be talking about that.
Yeah. Also, before I wrap things up, hey guys, I hope you know, if you've gotten this many episodes into our podcast, you know that this is not just a Jackie Chan movie now, right?
It came from something.
Please stop tweeting the Jackie Chan movie at me every week, please. I'm begging you. Please stop quoting the Jackie Chan movie.
Go watch
Shinjuku
Shinjuku Private Eyes. Go watch the French live-action movie. I swear you'll have a good time.
That's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry. I was holding on to that one. And
I know. It's rough. I know. You just gotta let it go.
They gotta stop.
I know.
How do you make them stop?
We keep doing the show. That's what we do.
Okay, great.
But this episode has to end.
Okay. So come back next time when we cover the 11th episode of City Hunter 2, The Inevitable Ringside Battle Bloodshed, Cobra Twist of Love.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter. For now, I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 62nd episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna fight Josh for the Intercontinental title.
I'll see you on Mokkori Monday.